Evening, folks. Hope you all are doing well. Looks like we are going to get started here. Oh, yeah. Good group of people in here. A lot of familiar names. Oh, what have you guys been talking about? Okay. I figured as much. We're going to talk about what you guys have been talking about as we get going. A couple of things beforehand. Just want to say thanks to everybody that showed up last night. Let me know if you guys like the post-game ones or if I should just wait to do these Monday nighters for the Q&A thing. Don't have to do both, but if everybody likes it, I'll keep trying to do them. So it is what it is. Hope you guys had a good day. Another good week for the Chiefs. I thought they came out and did their thing, and I'm pretty happy. And like I said, start at the top. Oh, before I forget, tonight's beer is from New Belgium. It's a triple, I generally call it because I just like to Americanize everything. It's a heavier blonde ale. It's Belgian. It's really, really tasty. Think Tank 7 on steroids, basically. That's the way that triples work. In fact, for those of you that are into craft beer, I'm going to throw the link to the latest How to Homebrew because it's a really interesting conversation. I put a lot of work into this one, doing the research. This link right here, you can check that out later. That's going to be the newest How to Homebrew kind of thing. So check that out if you like. Pat Mahomes, obviously the thumbnail, because he did such an amazing job. I've been high on him for a long time, just like everybody else. And I even said it on the podcast today. He made me look kind of dumb because the number one takeaway, like you can talk about all the stats and all that stuff. I don't know all that. Chris is our super stat guy. So we can go into all the records and how many games it took to get where and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it is one of those deals that it just amazes me, his athleticism, and in a way that isn't normal, if it isn't like on display when he breaks the pocket. What he did yesterday is exactly what I said he would do when he was drafted, except I saw it as a negative at the time. So did every major draft analyst that I read, saw, thought about, or heard from. By the way, the Wayland shirt is on display tonight for those of you that are fans of the man. Oh, and I should do this too. I know you guys have been here a lot. Aaron Morrow and Big Test gave me an idea a few weeks ago on here on one of these Q&As about doing a shirt. So I started the hashtag do and did a shirt up for it. So if anybody's into that, here's the link for it here in the chat as well. Had a lot of requests for it. So yeah, if you're into it, there you go. Now, what he did in Patrick Mahomes, like when I scouted him on film in college, he was a guy that broke a lot of rules. A lot of people were concerned about that. We're worried that he can't really hold up because his mechanics aren't normal. He had a tendency to cross his feet. He had a tendency to throw across his body. And he had a tendency to throw from a narrow platform, which generally takes away from your power. And for a normal quarterback, a human quarterback, would have limited just how far he can throw. But I think we've proven Pat Mahomes is not human. So what he did yesterday is do the same thing because of the ankle, because he wasn't taking the same strides that he normally would, because planning onto that left foot is difficult. So what did he do? He threw from a narrow platform. He didn't have that nice wide arc with that power stride like you do when you're pitching. And he still used that arm strength and that wrist action to flick that ball for 50, 60, 70 yards because he can. And that's really what it comes down to. It's baffling. And it made me feel kind of dumb because it was one of the things that I said I was worried about because of his mechanics, because a lot of throwing motion comes from your feet. But he's clearly well beyond that, and I was wrong. So was Gruden, and so was McShay, and all the guys that were a little bit concerned about it. So anyway, that said, really impressed with the fact that they went from feeling out how they were going to be pressured, that they were getting that kind of zero cover look, a lot of strong play from the corners, trying to jam receivers. In fact, I'll probably have that in the film room later this week. They were really after Sammy and Mecole Hardman. in terms of those first couple of drives, trying to really jam them and disrupt the routes. And they were successful, and it worked for them. And then the Chiefs adjusted. And then they backed out of it and played more coverage, and that just opened up the day for them. So it was a progression of things that didn't go so well for the Raiders. And it all comes back to being able to flip that switch and do what you're trying to do. So more power to them. Wolverine, thank you. Appreciate that. Folks, Super Chat's open. If you want to support the channel, you can do that by using that $ at the bottom of the chat and throwing anything out there. But if you do, like Wolverine did, you can see that there. Make sure you ask a question so you get something for your donation right away, as well as the rest of the conversation. So with that said, we can get started, and I'm sure I know where we're going from all of your comments. Wolverine, Patriots are now the only elite competition in the AFC. Is Jalen Ramsey a good fit against a Brady-led offense? What type of CB plays good against Brady? It's not so much that it's playing good against Brady. It's understanding how to play him. And it depends on, quite frankly, the receivers. Now, the Chiefs have done okay against Antonio Brown in the past. Gordon has gotten them a little bit. Dorsett has the speed that really bothers me because the Chiefs don't have a corner to keep up with them. Jalen Ramsey will get run away from by Dorsett. He's fast, but he's not that fast. And I think we've seen what speed receivers can do against him because you saw what Tyreek Hill can do. You saw what Sammy can do with short cuts. And I think for those of you, and this is a great way that you led into this, Wolverine, because I know we're going to talk about Ramsey in specifics. He'll help you. He is an upgrade over some of the talent that they have. I still don't think they should do it, and I'll tell you why here in a little bit. But that said, I don't think aiming towards the Patriots is anything in specific. Ramsey is a big, tall, powerful, likes to say he's the strongest corner, if not the best corner in the league. You even see that on the NFL's commercials, which I think is totally contradicted now. But man is his thing. He can play zone just fine. But again, speed, closing speed, change of direction. If he can have his hands on you, that gives him an advantage. So I personally would say if they were going to play all man, like last season under Bob, he would have been a good fit on the field anyway. I don't know that he's so great now because I think what you're going to see is they're going to drift more towards mixed coverages and zone. They might go over 50% of zone when the year comes to the end. I think what we're seeing is the evolution of how they have to play with some of their personnel. So that said, thank you for the donation. Thanks for your question, Wolverine. And I know there's a ton of them in here, you guys. And I'm just going to start from here and we'll move forward because it seems like most of the questions are all about Ramsey. So let's go through this. Ramsey melted down and got frustrated last season when the Chiefs beat them. It sent the whole Jaguars team into a tailspin, kind of ruined their whole season. This year, they melted down on the field. They didn't even wait until after the game. It melted them down, and Ramsey was a big part of it. He is a vocal guy. I don't know that I'd call him a leader because he doesn't lift anybody up. He doesn't improve your team. All he does, all we've seen him do in Jacksonville is tear it down. Whether it's his teammates, whether it's the coaching staffs, whether it's the organization overall. We don't see him making a positive contribution off the field, in the locker room, in leadership. I don't think he's going to do that somewhere new either. I don't think it's a case where a change of venue helps the player change to a more positive aspect. I feel like he's derogatory towards his teammates. I think his competitive streak is a plus in my mind, but it leads to him behaving in a way that isn't a plus for the team. And bottom line, and I think the Brinks truck really illustrates this best, he's a me first guy. He is not a team guy. That will not fly with Andy Reid. It will not fly with Tyrann Mathieu and Frank Clark. They have been holding the torch, holding the line about this is a team first mentality in Kansas City. And those two guys in particular, the two biggest money earners on the defense, are definitely in line with team first. I don't see how Jalen Ramsey can fit in this locker room and can fit into this group with that mentality. Yes, he's a very good player, but I just don't think that it can work. I personally find it impossible. But I'll tell you what I do like. And before we do this, let me take a run here real quick. Trying to find if there's anything not about Ramsey. Okay, I think I'm covering your bases about Ramsey. Now, value's where this comes in. And I'm going to pause my scroll so I can come back to some of these other questions here in a minute, you guys. The good thing about this, demanding a trade 2 weeks into the season, he's going to get paid on his next contract. He's going to make a ton of money. He's a very good player now. He is Pro Bowl level in terms of his individual skills, what he can be as a player. That's worth a first-round pick. That's going to be worth a first-round pick to somebody who's going to pick before the Chiefs. Someone will give Jacksonville a first-round pick for this guy. That's great. As long as it's not the Patriots, that's great. Because what it does is it sets the market. Like right now, we have now till I think it's the last week in October is the trade deadline. So that's the market for right now. And that sets the top, which means Minkah Fitzpatrick cannot be the same as Jalen Ramsey. That bumps Minkah Fitzpatrick's asking price down to a second round, no matter what, in my opinion. I don't see any way, if they get a first-round pick for Jalen Ramsey, which I completely expect that they will, that the Dolphins will then get a first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. The market just won't do it. Teams will say, I can go out and spend on Ramsey with a first-round pick and get a guy that's already a Pro Bowler. So that's the difference, and I think that helps the Chiefs. I do think that Minkah Fitzpatrick is the way they should be aiming right now. I feel like he played great as a rookie. Maybe not great, not all pro, but great, good, very good and promising. I think the way he's been used, and I haven't seen the film from Sunday, but from week one, I feel like he was used in a poor way. I don't think he was maximized at what he does well. I think he can play at the back of the defense at free, and I think he can play corner, but more specifically slot corner. And I think what you saw yesterday and the way that this fits in is that Fuller, I felt, played best when he was playing off in zone. And quite frankly, that means he doesn't have to be in the slot. I think Fuller can play outside. I think Breeland can play outside. I think if you got Fitzpatrick, you can put him in at the corner. He can play man. He can play zone. I think he's about equal, but probably still a little bit better at zone. And then you can let Charvarius Ward continue to develop. I thought Charvarius Ward played better yesterday than he did in week one. So that's a big positive. And I think they tried, at least on a couple snaps, and I am going to clip those out as much as I can, of Ward playing inside at nickel and playing man and being able to do what he does well. And I think that's a plus. And I think if they can wrangle Minkah Fitzpatrick away, I think it gives them guys that can do what they want to do in ways that they can take advantage of and have not only a complete defense in terms of being manned at all the positions, but a complete defense that can do a lot of different things. That can show the variations that Spags wants to show, that can keep people off guard. Now, that said, early in the chat, and I'm sorry, I've scrolled past it now trying to keep up. A lot of you guys were talking about sources and that kind of thing. I have heard from zero sources about what an offer has been made, might be made, could be made. As far as I know, I don't have any confirmation of an offer on Minkah Fitzpatrick. But I do know that there's been talk. There's been phone calls, exploratory. What would it start to be like? This is a negotiation, and I don't think with a player that young that it's going to be a quick thing. So it's going to take a little bit of time. And I do know that the Chiefs have reached out. I have heard that from multiple sources, but I haven't heard anything confirming an offer. I don't think it's to that point yet. It may be coming to that point, and maybe that's what some other folks are trying to say that they've heard or whatever, or maybe I'm just out of loop and somebody knows something I don't, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not a reporter. I don't try to dig into sources and that kind of thing. I'm not here to break news. I'm here to analyze what goes on and tell you from a systemic franchise level what's best for this team. That's where I'm focused. So that said, I think now with the Ramsey news, if there had been an offer, the Chiefs are pulling it and probably pulling it down. I think a second round pick for Micah Fitzpatrick with a lower end pick thrown in. And if you missed my survey on Twitter, I did it the other day. Not sure why the light's flickering back there, but I noticed it. I think a late round pick and a player. And I think this all ties into what some other folks are asking. Dr. Santerre, I see your question. Let me try to address it and we'll come back and you guys can ask more if I don't get what you're looking for. I think Reggie's frustrated. I think Reggie Ragland is going to be part of a trade. I think they're keeping him healthy so they don't risk ruining him as collateral, as a piece that other teams are going to be interested in. And think about it this way. If you're the Dolphins and you're not only getting thrown on, but you're getting run on constantly, you can think that Reggie might be an upgrade for you. And that's okay. But he's worthless to you if he's hurt. So that's where I feel this is coming from. So Reggie's going to stay benched is what I think, because I think they're intending on including him in a package of picks to go get somebody. And that brings me to the next point. Cardinals have some good linebackers in coverage, but I think they're weak against the run. I think Reggie could fit in there as well. And I have come back to the thought that if Ramsey gets a 1, if Fitzpatrick gets a high 2, all of a sudden a guy that's only going to play 10 games this season in the regular season because of a 6-game suspension, I do not believe it's been reduced from what I looked at the other day. I think the Chiefs could still be in the running for pushing at Patrick Peterson. And I think, honestly, if the value comes down that they have to pay for him, I think that's the best scenario of all. I would take Pat over any of them right now today because he can give you 3 seasons right now that he can help you win Super Bowls. And I did say Super Bowls, multiple, because Pat Peterson is still at a caliber of player that can lock down half of that field. Done deal. Can't say that about Micah Fitzpatrick. He could be. He could be very, very good. But right now, today, Pat Peterson can do the job you need done today. And that's what I value. So all of that rolls into, yes, I think they understand that they have a ways to go, and I think they do need some personnel for it. It's about value, and I don't think Brett Veach is ever going to give away a number 1 pick again unless he absolutely has to. And I don't think this is a situation where he has to. I think he's got options with 2nd-round picks, and I think that's what it'll be. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know what else will be involved, but that's where I'm leaning. So that said, we'll get to the rest of the questions, and I kind of pause it here, and I'll pick up the pace. If I missed your question or you said something that I missed, you guys, just throw it back in there. And I know the big test, and it looks like Aaron Morrow got here too. Shout out to you guys. I got that shirt up that you guys gave me the idea for. So the link for it's higher in the chat, and I'll put it in the show notes too. Do is going to come out again tonight. I'm absolutely positive. So that said, we'll pick up where we are here with Jeff Lever. We scored 28 points in the second quarter, 0 minutes, the other 3. Thoughts and concerns. And I'm glad that you brought it up because I said this on the pod too. Patrick, with that narrow stance, with that just using the arm, he did miss some throws. It's hard to classify it this way, but he threw 75% in the second quarter. He threw 66% in the second half, which is a dramatic change, right? I mean, that's fairly big. He missed some wide. He missed some high. It just wasn't, it was a relationship of how he's feeling, I think. I think he cooled off at the half, and I don't think he ever really felt the need to really kick it into high gear again. But that said, he went from 75% to 66. Any other quarterback in the league would love to throw for 66%. So we're talking details here that can't really affect the outcome. I think what it showed you again is that Patrick can flip the switch even when he's hobbled. PFF actually graded Cam Irving as the best tackle in the league, I think. Chris checked that for me, and I believe that's true so far. I haven't seen the grades myself, and I don't trust the grades completely. That's not what I'm getting at. PFF does a great job. I don't always agree with their grades, especially related to how players performed on the field. So I always go back to the film. But I thought Irving settled down, and I think he's going to play this week. He's going to start, and I think that's going to be okay. I think you're going to see a similar game plan, and I think we might see more of Patrick Mahomes perform better this week than last because the Ravens, I think, are a more powerful offense. So that may actually have been the warm-up for this next week. Let's hope that he can get more treatment and feel better. So let's see. Who's next? Streamer Gods, how are you? Would you prefer Ramsey or Xavier Howard or Minka, and what would you give up for them? Okay. Thanks, streamer. Thanks for enjoying the show. We talked about Ramsey. Xavier Howard, I don't think is going to go anywhere. He said he doesn't want to trade. Unless he asks for one, I don't think he's going to get one. He would also be a guy that I think has probably earned the first round value. I don't think the Chiefs are going to give it, so I don't think that's going to happen. He's definitely worth it. I would not do it if I were Veach because that first round pick is going to be important depending on what happens with Chris Jones and what you have to do again at corner in the future. So I want to hold on to that. So that's my thought as a guy thinking like the GM. That's where I'm coming from. And Minka, I would do the 2 and package other picks. I would try to start it at a 6th or a 5th. And if I have to move up to a 4th, I would do that. I would include players if I have to, specifically Reggie, but others if I needed to. Good question. Next question, guys. Remember, throw the question marks at the beginning of your sentence, and that'll help me find it. Yevgeny, how are you? What would the defensive adjustments Chiefs made to shut down the Raiders in the last 3 quarters? They backed off some. I haven't gotten all the way through the film, and I haven't seen the all 22 yet, so it's difficult for me to see the secondary. You saw what I think was a missed assignment early by Thornhill, 1. And I think he missed 1 tackle. But other than that, Juan Thornhill played very well. And I think once they saw that, it backed off some of the things they were able to do late or deep, I mean. I feel like Breeland got a little bit beat up by Williams early when he was in man because, quite frankly, not that he had any bad technique or anything, but Williams is just faster. Williams on at least 2 plays just ran away from Bashaud Breeland because he's a faster guy. I think when they backed off and they played more zone, I think it helped them. I think Bashaud Breeland and Kendall Fuller in particular are better playing in zone. If you play them off the line and you let Javarius Ward go man up on somebody, I think that's the best combination of coverages that you can do because it plays to everybody's strength. It does become predictable at that point, and that's why Spags won't do it all the time, but it is there as a crutch. The first quarter was troubling. I think the defense played better in the second half. Mostly. The run is still scary. They still gave up 100 yards. I mean, 8.3 yards a carry is what they gave up. Still not good. So I'm not very happy with that. But again, they had gone to you know what I call the big nickel. I'm sorry, the little nickel with 1 linebacker and Sorensen in. And that gives up some run yardage. That's just the way it goes. The other adjustments that they made, I thought they mixed it up a little bit more early, and I think it might have thrown off some timing. I think they settled down, and I think guys were just more sound in what their assignments were in the second half. But again, I'll know more about the secondary in particular once I see the All-22 film that comes out either tonight or sometime Tuesday usually. No, Tuesday afternoon is usually when it's out. So that's what I'll be doing. Let's see. Kurt, no, that's not a question. Sorry. Christina, you would take Ramsey. Okay, good. Okay, here's a question. Aaron Morrow. Oh, here's Aaron's first question. Okay, why did we not just slide Wiley over and have Cam play guard? Not that he did a bad job. Is it experience or what? I think it's throwing too much at Wiley. And quite frankly, I think Wiley can be a right tackle. I think he's challenged as a left. I think Irving is a little bit more athletic. Wiley's definitely stronger and definitely more nasty. So I think that really works. And you always think of it in terms of who stacked where, right? By just replacing Fish with Irving, you've made 1 change. If you slide and then replace him, now you've made 2 guys change positions and get a little bit less comfortable. Communication with Reader through Irving becomes more difficult for Wiley. He's on the end there. That becomes more difficult for him. So I think that's why. I think that's really what it comes down to. Good question, Aaron. Who's next? Okay. Tony Wheeler, is this real? Yes, this is what I do every Monday night, Tony. Dr. Sanitary. Not saying it'll happen, but with the contract moves and the lack of movement at corner, do you think Veach is holding out for P2? I don't know if he's holding out, but I think he realizes he can't get it done for what he wants to get it done for right now. So he's going to take the long road. and wait until the Cardinals season either goes downhill or other corners get traded for higher value that he can then drop his price from. I think it's ongoing. I don't think it's out of it by any means. I think anything could happen. There could be a dark horse. Maybe Trufant's available from the Falcons, and I just don't know. I'd love that, but who knows? So I think it's just an ongoing process and a lot of things in the works. Gary, are you worried about the health of the O-line, keeping Mahomes healthy? Gary Holland, good question. A little bit. It depends how long Fish is out. The groins are tough, especially for O-linemen doing pass sets, especially for tackles. If they're smart, you're going to see Fish be out 4 to 6 weeks and just let it rest. They haven't said that. That's not what they're saying they're going to do, but that's in my head what I'm thinking. In order to get Fish completely healthy, and that's saying that he tried to come out and play yesterday. Yesterday. And got what? One play in? That's fairly significant. Like, he felt good, but it still isn't healed. So I think you got to not try to push that back too far. I think you can get by with Irving. That said, with the guys behind him, I think Jeff Allen can come in the middle 3. I don't want to see Jeff at tackle. Jeff's not as mobile as he used to be. And Jeff, if you see this, I dig what you do, but I don't think you should be a tackle anymore. So Jeff's great depth. And then you have the other guys, Allegretti, even Hunter behind him. They signed another guy today and they let Ivy go. I think they're going to try to get Ivy back to the practice squad. So we'll see if that can happen. So I think the depth is there. It won't perform as well, but it's about making sure that when you play those Patriots and you get to the playoffs, that you have Fish and you're reloaded. So I think that's more important. Let's see. Chris, in real life, how are you? Would you hold your first or go to Minka? Would you hold on to your first or go for Minka or Ramsey? I think we've covered that. I want the one and I want a player. So definitely not Ramsey. Yes, Tony Wheeler, this is real. Why? I don't know why you keep asking that. Yes, this is talk. This is what happens. Big Test, how are you? Any news on Damien or Shady? Shady had an MRI today. I have not seen the results yet. I'm sure the team has, but they haven't announced anything as of when I got on here. Damien, knee contusion. That's not generally something that's going to be super long. He might miss a week. He might not. I think we'll know, they're off Tuesday. When they get back on Wednesday, we'll have a better idea. I'm with you, Jerry and Christina, or Jerry and Scott. Morbian, Shady. Yep, he is. You're right. Anthony Boyd. What's wrong with the running game? And why did we let up on the Raiders? What's wrong with the running game is the Raiders knew it was coming. They knew that Mahomes is hobbled, and they're trying to take some pressure off of him. They were keying on it, and it cost them in the pass game. So I think they were just specifically not going to let the run get away from them, and that's okay. I think it worked out just fine. That's really what it comes down to. Chiefs were +2 in turnovers yesterday. I'd have to go back and look. I think they were +1, so maybe they're +3 for the year so far in the turnover category. That's Scott Meza. Scott Conklin. Was the Chiefs defense really responsible for the Raiders only scoring 10, or the Raiders' mistakes like the easy pick in the end zone? It's a mix. The defense gave him looks, but yeah, that pick Breland had, he even said so. He's like, the guy looked confused. He knew it was coming because they had Mecole and Williams shared a look. And then Rashad, in his interview last night, even said that Williams gave up on the play. He's like, it was just easy. So some of it was the fact that the Raiders just, I don't know if they got down or they got trumped or whatever, but they quit on certain aspects of the game. And maybe not they. Certain players quit on some things. Put it that way. Scott, you were right. Keith Welch, are you concerned about the O-line performance so far? Not necessarily. I didn't like that they didn't run well. Especially if you're not going to run very often, you got to run well when you do. And that's what they usually do. That's the big takeaway from this offseason, that as I went through all the stats and all the situationals, that they don't run enough for me, but they do run well. And they had the second highest run production in terms of like yards per carry and first downs in the league there to close out the season. So I felt good about that. And maybe it was just an issue of 1 week. We'll see what happens coming this week. I think they do want to try to get a little bit physical with the Ravens. I think that will help them. And I'm hoping that they come back around and emphasize the run a little bit more. Jerry, I have no confirmation. Antonio, no confirmation on Shady. We should find out, like I said, probably Wednesday-ish. Zach Fisher, how do you think Fuller is playing? Looked like he got beat on some deep routes, but got lucky because the Raiders wideouts dropped a couple. Not so much that it dropped a couple, but I think especially that one that they reviewed and everything with Hunter Renfrow, who is a really shifty kid. Like, I liked him coming out. I thought he would have been a nice slot guy for the Chiefs because I had them going corner first. So that said, but Kendall Fuller had to hold him pretty good. Kendall Fuller had to hold on to Chark even when he scored that touchdown last week. Kendall's a little overmatched right now in man, and I don't know what's going on. I know he was beat up in camp, and I think maybe that's some of that lingering. He's definitely better in zone. And when he was in zone, I thought like he made some plays. He came up against the run well. Driving forward, I think he's in pretty good shape. It's turning his back that I think he gets a little bit out of sorts. So that may improve, or they may just adapt the defense to help him and let him play more zone. Spags isn't afraid to mix it up. And you saw some coverages where it was man under with zone over, or zone on one half and man on the other. They can mix it up that way as well. KCK, what's up? Mr. Green. Nope, that's not a question. Sorry. Impressed with Breeland's tackling, Dr. Sanchez. Yeah, I think Breeland's always been good at tackling. It hasn't surprised me, to put it that way. But yes, he's a very solid tackler. The problem with him is he can get beat with speed. But if it's in front of him, he's generally pretty good, even in the open field. So I'm comfortable with him there as well. Fuller generally is in the open field as well. And again, it comes from being guys that play in zone really well. KCK, who would you rather have, Peterson, Howard, or Ramsey? Peterson. Then Howard. No. Peterson, Fitzpatrick, Howard, Ramsey would be the way I would go. Let's see. Nathan Altick. How would you grade Hitchens so far this season? Uncannily solid. He's given up a couple of plays. I think he's been better against the run, and I think he hasn't been as bad against the pass. I think Damian Williams is outplaying him right now in general, but I think you've seen Hitch get back to being comfortable in the defense. I think he's playing better than he did last year. Let's see. Good question. Streamer Gods. With the supposed weakness at linebacker, why would you trade a good linebacker in Ragland, and who would take his spot? Well, they've already given his spot away. Darren Lee is playing his spot. He's playing the third linebacker. And Lee got caught up in some plays. The Waller reception that was behind the line of scrimmage, was it? I don't know. It was a motion. He just got caught, sucked inside, and was late on his coverage. There was another one earlier in the game that went for a completion to the other tight end where he was just late on his coverage. But he has the wheels, and he's faster than Reggie. Reggie's better against the run and in short zones. I mean, and here's the thing. Reggie picked off Tom Brady in a game last year and made a difference. That doesn't go as far as it used to. And that was in pass coverage, clearly. So I'm a little frustrated by it. But clearly they found something that they feel he's a better piece, not on the field right now, as trade bait is my guess. Can't say I agree, but it is what it is. Dylan Kruckman, thank you for your donation. Nice to see you. What did the Raiders do practically to practically take out the run game? They focused on it. Their inside linebackers are crashing. They crowded up into some of the A gaps, and quite frankly, they did good film study. They knew where things were going. I think Andy's play call in the run game, particularly with Damian, is a little predictable. Shady can do a little bit more because of his experience. So I think it keeps guys on their toes a little bit better. But even that said, neither of them had any success running the ball. Maybe that's a function of what the Raiders did to prepare, and they knew where things are going. And you got to give credit to Burfict. He is a good linebacker. He got them lined up. He recognized things. And that kind of veteran player, that's why he's on that roster. And I didn't see him take any real cheap shots. So, hey, good for him. Good question, Dylan. Thanks for the donation. Appreciate it. Next question. Potoquai, how are you? Oh, I think I saw you before. Mahalo. I'm sorry I missed your first question. Do you see... I don't see a choice, but for Veach to do a big move with the way the Patriots are playing. They look unbeatable. Pono, I can't really argue with you. And here's what it comes down to. Pat can keep up with Brady. I think Pat can outplay Brady at this point. I think Spags will have an answer for the Antonio Brown thing. But here's the thing. Their defense is better right now. And yes, the Chiefs are new. And yes, they have a lot of new players. They have to get it together. That's going to be what it is. We have to watch the evolution of the defense in order to beat the Patriots. That's what it's going to come down to. So that's really what it is. I think they can do it, and we just got to see it progress. Obviously, something I'm going to keep a very close eye on. So, it is what it is. I will say, Miami's just one example, but they do have an easier schedule. I don't like to lead on that very often because any player can make any play any day. It truly is any given Sunday. But they generally have played, they play two teams that are not up to par with their talent. So let's see. Jerry, what happened to Tremont Smith? Did we fall asleep at the wheel, or did we just evaluate everything and just let him go? They let him go. They tried. They tried so hard to find a spot for Tremont Smith to play on this roster. They tried him at corner. They tried him at running back. They tried him at wide receiver. Just isn't that good a player. He does one thing super good, and that's return kicks. Problem is, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Hardman, and you have that. You don't need to keep a player just to return kicks. And that's what ended up happening. It's too bad. I wanted to see him mature. He played well at his level in college, but he played at a very low level in college. He didn't have the competition, and it really showed on defense. And clearly they didn't see anything on offense that thought that they could salvage him. So it's too bad. They would have put him on the practice squad if they could have. I don't think it was ever going to happen, but excuse me. Scott Mazia, how do you think that Ben Neiman played? I think he did pretty well. He was in his zone where he's supposed to be. I didn't see him arrive late for anything. And I think the big takeaway is that you saw him play on third down a lot. I'm going to do, if I can, it's on my list of things to do, is try to track just when he was in the game and when he wasn't. I have the snap counts right here. Let me look at that real quick. And Ben Neiman played almost a quarter of the snaps. That's huge for him. I think that's probably the most snaps he's ever played on defense. So that's a big deal. And I feel like, again, it's because of his coverage ability. And so I think you might see that going forward. I'm going to keep a close eye on that. And I think we might see him next week as well. Tony Wheeler. Fitzpatrick is Minka Fitzpatrick, former number 11 pick from Alabama. He now plays for the Dolphins, and he won't be there very long. Skylar Tolson. What impact can Maurice Claiborne have after week 4? Will it be noticeable on day 1? Day 1, maybe not. Week 2 or 3, yeah, I think it will. And here's my point. In trading for an ace for a really high-end corner like Patrick Peterson, like Minka Fitzpatrick, you're making them one of the top 3. That allows you some insurance against injury for Fuller Breland or whoever that is. And Mo has a lot of experience. Now when you go nickel and dime, you have 4 corners you can go out there that can get the job done for the most part. Nobody wins 100% of the time. Corners get beat every game. Nobody's perfect. But those 4 guys, you can march out there and feel like you can defend the Patriots. And that's the point. Jay Kane, I would take Trufant too. I like that. Kevin Miller, do you see any improvement in our secondary? I did overall. Still a couple of missed assignments, a couple of question marks, but I felt like they played better week 2 than they did week 3. I'm sorry, than week 1. We'll see what happens in week 3. Week 3 is going to be a challenge. The tight ends, Anders in particular, but the other guy that I can't remember right now. And Brown's going to get a lot of attention from the safeties. I would not be surprised to see a lot more 3 safety and a lot more cover 4, cover 2, with both Matthew and Thornhill playing back, because the speed of Brown is just it's better than Hardman. It's not quite Hill. That's what it is. Who's next? Carlos A. What are the Patriots? What about the Patriots would you be worried about? Just the fact that they can dissect anyone and they have the talent to exploit it. AB just puts them over the top. Although we'll see what happens with AB in the off the field stuff and whether he's actually available when the Chiefs get to play them. Jerry Pratt, Honey Badger, do you think he's slacking or just trying to sink the D? I think Honey Badger's trying to lead, and I think he's a little over worried about what everybody else is doing. But that said, he saved a touchdown. He did get penalized, but he had to on what I think was a blown play by somebody else, probably Juan Thornhill. But that said, Juan Thornhill played a heck of a game. I'm going to focus on him. I will show you guys some of his film this week. And let me know what you guys thought of the film review. I got a new tool for doing the lines and that kind of stuff. So give me some feedback on that one in the next one, and let me know what you think. Christina, better game 1 or 2 overall? I think the defense was better in game 2. I think the offense was better in game 1. I don't like everything being in one quarter. Makes me nervous. Aaron, I thought Ward stepped up his game kind of like he did last year when they needed him time to get warm. Do you still feel like he needs to be a number 4? Yeah, I do still feel like he needs to be a 4. But I agree with you. I think he did improve, and I think he did step up. And I think Spags is learning what he can and can't do, and that will become a more customized fit. But Mo Claiborne starts immediately over him when Mo gets back, in my eyes. And I do feel like if they make a big trade, it sets them up to have Ward and Mo fight for playing time, and I think that's a good thing for the team. Good question, Christina. Aaron, okay, J.E. How do you see us dealing with the Patriots? Look like stacked on both sides of the ball. Do you think that they only look good due to the competition? That's part of it. But I do feel like before they get to the Patriots game, I'll go back and look at what Spags did to them in their undefeated season when he stopped that. And I think what you're going to see is rolled defensive looks that don't actually pan out the way they look pre-snap. Tom Brady can pick almost anything apart, but can the receivers understand what they're seeing and what's actually happening? I think that's going to be the difference. And quite frankly, they got to get pressure with their 4. They're not getting enough pressure yet. It's coming. I felt like they did better this week than the first week, but they got to get more pressure with their front 4. David Nagel. Do you see Hardman slacking on blocking downfield like I did? I wouldn't say slacking. I think he's not that good at it yet. He wasn't much of a blocker at Georgia. It's a new thing for him. And quite frankly, you can see with some of the DBs, especially when they were playing man and pressing him, he's just not used to that physicality. He didn't have to deal with that. So it's going to be a growing process for him, but I don't think that it's slacking. I think he's good to get down. He just got to get better. Jerry, there we go. Oh, wait, no. Ryan Gordon, thanks for your donation. Thanks. Do you think we'll still have a top 15 defense by mid-season? Mid-season might be pushing it. In terms of points, I think they can, yes. Yardage, they're still going to give up a ton. But again, you don't lose games by giving up yards. You lose games by allowing points. So that's what I'm going to focus on. That's what I always focus on. And if they can be 15 in points allowed, they're going to be just fine. Thanks for the question, though. Jerry, okay. Should we be concerned about the ankle on Mahomes? We only made 4 TDs in the second quarter, and we didn't really do anything in the third and fourth. I think that's partially from Andy just calling less aggressive plays, and I think it's partially from cooling off from halftime. I think it is going to be a lingering thing that we have to keep an eye on, but I'm not worried about Mahomes. I think Mahomes showed you that when he has to, he can light it up. It doesn't really matter. We have to worry about him getting hit again. And whatever that has to be, whether it's these shorter passes, whether it's more play action, whatever it has to be, they have to stay focused on keeping him clean. That's what it's about. Joshua Weddle. I'm back to remind you, Avery's in Boulder. Your only blunder so far. Okay. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. I'm going to look up their address for you, though, because I swear to God, I go to Longmont first. Okay, who's next? Scroll got me again, you guys. Hold on a minute. Lazarus, thanks for the donation. I don't see a question so I'm going to keep scrolling to find yours here in a minute. Chris Anderson. Should we go after Ramsey or Fitzpatrick? Fitzpatrick. I talked a bunch about it earlier, so when it posts again, just check that out. Justin Troval, you said you thought we'd go 14-2. Do you think we will lose to the Ravens and Green Bay? The two losses that I had when we did that review pre-camp was Green Bay and Patriots. I think the Ravens are better than I expected them to be by quite a bit, to tell you the truth. But I do feel like the Chiefs can beat them, especially at home. I feel like they can deal with it. I think two things are going to be important. Corralling Brown, not letting him get deep on you, and keeping an eye on Jackson. Jackson has not run very much this season, but this defense has a tendency to get focused, blinders on, and that's the kind of thing that a running quarterback can take advantage of. So that's what I'm going to be focused on. I think this may be something that they have to worry about. Maybe Jackson does run on him some, and if he's running that he's not throwing, and I think I'm okay with that. I think in the end, it's about, can you put up as many points as Mahomes, and I don't think the Ravens do. Good question. Good way to put it. Lazarus, there's your question. How good is the Ravens D? It's solid, but it's not spectacular. They lost Mosley, and that makes me want to run on them a lot. I haven't reviewed their players yet. I'm waiting for the grades from their week 2, and I'll have a look at that as we get closer to the game plan video on Friday, which might go up later this week, just because of it depends on when the All-22 comes out. Jerry, were you impressed with? Oh, wait, I flipped somebody. Sorry, Jimmy Phillips. What are the chances that we look for another tackle to shore up depth? It's possible, but that's what they traded for Rankin for. I just don't think he's ready to play. Rankin's going to be the swing tackle of the future, but they got to get him in the program. Quite frankly, I think they got to get him a little more fit from what I saw preseason, and they just got to get him into the system. I don't think they go trading for a swing tackle. Jerry, are you impressed with the route running of Mecole Hardman? Some and some not. That skinny post I thought worked well, but you also saw a play earlier where he should have gotten all the way to like within 4 or 5 feet of the sideline, and he was late. He rounded his route off, and it was a completion that was there to be had, that Mahomes put the ball in the right spot, but Hardman wasn't there. That was earlier in the game. I don't know exactly when, but I wrote in my notes, hey, he rounded that off and cost him a completion. He's getting there. He's still, remember, he played 2 years of wide receiver in college. That's it. So he's still learning a lot too. We got to give him a little bit of a break. He's going to contribute, folks. He's going to make plays. It's just going to take a little time to get him there. Kevin Miller, do you think that we can hold Jackson under 100 yards rushing? We haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher yet. 99 was pretty close. But yeah, I think he's going to get a couple of chunk plays. Will he get 100 yards? I hope not. I think Matthew might be roaming around looking for him. And quite frankly, I think Dan Sorensen might be roaming around looking for him. It depends what they want to do with the tight ends. But yeah, I think he's going to get a couple chunk plays. I'm going to say under on the 100 yards. Let's see. Dean 3121. How do we handle Hollywood Brown this week? You play deeper. And quite frankly, you play more guys in deep zones. You play cover 2 more. And maybe you mix in some cover 3, cover 4, that kind of thing. Where guys are traveling, even when you're in cover 4, if your corners are traveling the length, they have those long routes, right? So if Brown takes out and he's in and out of route, even though he can beat the corners in terms of foot speed, the recognition factor on those longer routes can allow the safeties to help over the top, even in cover 4 when they have their own zone to man. So I feel like that's probably the way that Spags is going to try to attack that. That's definitely what I would do, but I'm not Spags, so believe me, the man knows a hell of a lot more than I do. I'll be really interested to see what he does do and how effective it is. Yevgeny, how can you see the Chiefs and defensive personnel defending Lamar? Really by being disciplined, by making him sit in the pocket and allow the pass rush to have more time. If they can sit in their zones and scare him that they're going to jump routes, which I think is what he's a little concerned about, I think it's going to allow Frank and Okafor and Chris Jones to get home. I think this is one where the secondary has to help the pass rush, just because the pass rush hasn't really gotten going yet. I feel like they're inching forward, but not like driving forward. Good question. Let's see. Jay, what do you think of Patrick Mahomes is able to step in to throws completely? Could it be, did it feel like why he missed a couple? Yes, you're absolutely right. Jeff Lever, Chris Jones looked like he was in top form, constant penetration. And what did you see from him? I saw constant push. I didn't see a whole lot of penetration. He didn't beat guards soundly and be free to dive into the backfield, but he's getting there. I feel like the time that he missed, he's still kind of working up a little bit, even though he had camp. So I think Chris will be just fine. Oh, we're at 50 minutes already. Dang. Okay. We have 300 people though, so that's good. Going to hit the questions pretty quick now. What do you think of Hardman and K-Pass playing in the game on Sunday? I thought that was a good sign, Metal Rocker. And I especially like that. I think K-Pass is starting to feel his oats a little bit. I think he's going to start making some plays. I think he's feeling more confident. I think that's a big thing for him. Joshua Weddle, how do you feel about Colorado Springs? Would you live there? I like Colorado Springs. It's a little quieter, but here's the problem. The traffic in the Springs is terrible. But I may be down there. If the Chiefs do what I've heard they might be looking into for Mexico City week, they might be practicing down there. Scott Macy, your thoughts on Clark and Okafor? How are they progressing? Slowly, but they're getting there. Aaron Morrow, is it weird for anyone else to be seeing Thomas wearing 84? Yeah, it is kind of weird. I think one digit fits him better. Chris Anderson, but the Bears kept Devin Hester just to return kicks. Yeah, they did. Chiefs don't. You got to remember, what was that? Lovey? Yeah, well, Dave doesn't always get his way. Dave Tobe would do that. Andy won't. Justin Seymour, are you excited to see the KC defense at home? Yeah, I think that will help. Being at home is going to be a big thing. I think it's going to give the guys that are new to the team a taste. I think that's going to help spur everything on. P-Zone. What do you think of Darren Lee? I think he's athletic. I think he's still a little weak against the run. I think he's over biting on what he's seeing. I think he's going to get a lot of encouragement and talking to and advice from the veterans. I think that's going to help him. But he's still a little overeager. I think he's getting faked out a little bit still. Minka. Yeah. Okay. Minka. Yeah. Nathan Altick, would getting Pat Pete make our secondary the best in the league? I don't know about best in the league, but it would make it very formidable. Do you think the Chiefs trading for improvement in linebackers? Alberto Buenos. I'm sorry. Bonuelos? I'm terrible. I'm sorry. I apologize for butchering your name. I don't think they're trading for linebacker performance. I think they have what they want. I think in Lee as a starter, they have a coverage linebacker. I think in Neiman as a backup, and O'Daniel as a backup, they have two guys that can be coverage linebackers. I think that's what they're concerned about. They don't want the thumper. They haven't. The league's using them less. It's just an old school mentality that I love that nobody else does. So I think that's what the team sees, and that's why I think they're moving on from Reggie as a linebacker to try and take advantage of what is a good player that doesn't fit what they want to do that well. Evgeny, what's happening on the special teams is very much unlike Dave. I said the same thing live this weekend, and I'm not sure. Maybe it's just how much younger they are. Maybe it's the change at some of the key positions like Gunner. Don't get me wrong. Marcus Kemp is a big loss for that special teams unit. He held things together. He led that team in a lot of ways. So you got to see other guys step up, and I think they will. It just takes a little bit of time. Michael Ford. Oh, wait, no. Jeremy Jones, thanks for your donation. Why are we not getting to the quarterback like we should? Because, quite frankly, it's still new. I think guys aren't understanding exactly. Like Chris Jones started to show a little bit this week, right? Okafor's getting in some plays. Frank's getting a lot of attention. He's getting chipped a lot. He's getting a lot of tight end stuff. They're going to take Frank away. It's the other guys that have to capitalize. And so I think they're just getting used to the fact that they have some opportunities and they got to go now. It's a sense of urgency is what I'm not seeing. And I think that will come along. Good question, Jeremy. Michael Ford, are the Chiefs waiting for a loss to get aggressive in getting Fitzpatrick or Peterson? I don't think so. I think the other team might come off or be more willing to trade as their season progresses down the tubes, specifically Miami. I don't think the Chiefs are waiting for that. I think that's just the natural process of it. Scott Meza, does Kelsey Robinson have a big game against the Ravens? I'm not sure about Robinson. I have to look at their DBs a little bit closer, but I do think Kelsey has the mismatch, especially underneath in the intermediate area. So I'm going to look for him quite a bit. And I think this is game Sammy's going to be able to get off the press a little bit better. We'll see. I think what you're going to see now is going to be whack-a-mole. Demarcus, Kelsey, Sammy, maybe even Hardman. Everybody's going to get some mismatches. And when they do, they have to take advantage of it. And you might see a different guy lead this team in receiving every week for the next 8 weeks, for all I know, until Hill's back. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. Who can take advantage and exploit their matchup the best? So I think we might see a different leading receiver every single week. Okay. Big Chief Sean made it. How are you, Sean? Folks, everybody say hi to Sean. Make sure you go check out his channel too. Man of the people. You guys need to know. Sean asked, can our defense hold the Ravens? I think so. It's not going to be scoreless. It's going to be more than 10 points. But I think they can hold them under 28. I'm hoping they can hold them under 21. I don't know. But I think, again, in the balance, it's going to be, can the offense get out to enough of a lead to make them semi-one-dimensional? I think Ingram's a little beat up, so their run game might be hurting a little bit. The question is going to be, are they going to roll out the RPO and try to let Jackson run finally, or are they going to let him sit? If they let him sit, I think Spags is going to be able to deal with it pretty well. Scott Meza, has the Honey Badger earned his money this week or for the Patriots? I think he's leading the team. I think he's doing things behind the scenes that we don't see on the field. I think he's helping Juan Thornhill quite a bit. I think he's keeping the defense together. So I think he's earning his money to this point. If and when he doesn't, I will be the first to tell you. Jake, not much of a pro basketball fan at all. The Nuggets are decent. My wife's a fan. I don't really follow pro basketball. Rock Chalk, college basketball guy. Maximo, thanks for yours. Scott answered your question. Aaron, did you answer my question about D-Rob's trade value? Oh, no, I missed that one, Aaron. I don't think this drastically changes it. People are going to want to see more. If he has a couple of games through the season, it might go up, but Andy doesn't want to trade him, especially for this situation when somebody gets hurt. They feel like he has had this in him all along. I'm really happy for him, and I'm glad to see it. The reason I've been down on him is because he hasn't done it to this point. And I didn't need to see 172 yards, but I needed to see a 100-yard game. I needed to see a touchdown or two. But I don't think it's really drastically helping his trade value. And I don't think they want to trade him. So, Carlos Rodriguez, is anyone else concerned about Thornhill? I am not. I'm not sure if anybody else is. How bad do the Raiders feel? Do you think it affected the running abilities? Maybe a little bit, but Shady's played there before. Most of the lines played there before. I don't think that really is what slowed down the run game. But I am glad that they'll never have to do it again. Aaron, any French? Okay, French. My original question was that I was glad we didn't trade him with Hill being out, but is the trade value as high as it'll ever be right now? I don't think so. I think if he can put in another couple of games like that, he might be worth more. But again, I don't think he's going anywhere. Carlos Rodriguez, do you think trading for Ramsey would be a horrible idea a la Peters 2.0? Yes, I definitely do. I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole. Scott Meza, did Pringle come back? Yes, Pringle was on the field. He played some special teams. Pringle played 4 snaps on offense, which I didn't even realize. And 72% of the special teams, Pringle came back. So yeah, he is there and ready to go. Aaron, yes. Anthony Sherman will be the special teamer no matter what. I hope he gets a little more play this week. I'd like to see them run a little bit more power. Brandon Patterson, Tano Passanio. He's definitely improved since we drafted him. Has he taken over for Breland Speaks? Well, with Speaks out, he's going to progress a little bit more. I think Speaks still has some upside in him. We'll have to see how he recovers from his injuries. Jason, with Shady hurt and Damian hurt, who will we see more of? Will we see more of Darwin Thompson? I think you will. I think it's going to be a nice split between Daryl and Damian. I think Daryl will probably start, and Darwin will come in. Sorry, did I just say Damian? I think Daryl will start, and Darwin will come in. I think Darwin's going to play on some third downs. We know Daryl can, but I think they're going to give Daryl the first carries. That is, if both those guys are out. I haven't heard about Shady's MRI, and we don't know the extent of the knee contusion for Damian, so they could both play still too. So we're real close to the end here, folks. Got a couple more donations I want to make sure that I hit. Richard, thank you for another great Q&A. I appreciate the donation and for you being here. Roger, is Spags 100% better than Bob Sutton? Yes, heads and tails, far and away. Bob's a nice guy. It sounds like he's a great grandfather, but I think he's past his prime in this league. Scott Kreider, why didn't we get Shady in the passing game more? It's a good question. I think really they were focused on the fact that they had chances downfield. I think Mahomes still has some Favre in him that if he sees availability downfield, he's going to go for it. Michael Ford, how long are we without Fisher? We don't know. It's week to week. I think it's going to be around 4 or 6 is my gut feeling, but they have not announced that. Malik, thanks for your donation. I appreciate it. Jamie Householder, is it going to be a shootout on Sunday? Will Pat have to throw 4 to 6 touchdowns to win? They're going to have to score 4 to 6 to win. I don't know if Pat will have to throw them all, but that's the most likely. Yeah, the Ravens are going to score. I just don't know how much. That's going to be the key to the game. Can you keep them under 28? Because Pat's going to score 28. Pat and the offense. Sorry, guys, and the offense. I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus. Metal Rocker, thoughts on Pat Mahomes throwing bombs over the Raiders defense? It was fun. Oh, there. I almost made it, you guys. I almost made it. Scott, what are your thoughts on the play calling between Andy and the OC is going? I think Andy's still doing all the play calling. I think we'll hear about it when Eric Bieniemy contributes. I think he's whispering in ears. I think he knows what he wants to do. I look forward to that time, to tell you the truth. I want to see what Bieniemy can do when he's calling the plays. Jerry Cole, thank you for your donation. These need to be 2 hours long. Man, y'all are going to make me tired. Okay, looks like we're just about done. Last couple here, folks. Scott Meza, keep the post-game pods coming. Okay, appreciate that. Yeah, the pods we do every night. That's really the priority. The pod goes first, and then I come on YouTube Live because we like to get as much instant reaction on Locked On Chiefs as we can. So thank you. I appreciate you watching that. Yes. Okay, Scott Mizzy, do you see overtime in this week's Ravens game? No, I think they get it done in regulation. I think it's going to be good. Okay, Tony Wheeler, Minka, Minkah is Fitzpatrick's first name. Scott Macy, I answered yours. Joey Rabar, thoughts on Mason Rudolph? I want to see more. I haven't seen enough of him, but I thought he was decent in college. I thought he was a good project, and turns out that he was. We're going to see what he can do for the Steelers. And last question, Nathan Altick, is it just me, or is there a lack of stunts from our D-line? Yeah, it's been pretty vanilla so far. And I think that's part of it, like letting them ease into it, see what they can do on their own. And then he's going to get there. I think they're holding back for the second half of the season, to tell you the truth. I think they'll see a little bit more against the Packers, and I think they're focused on what's going to have to happen for the New England Patriots. So that's it. Anyway, we are over an hour, folks. Thanks for your time. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for everybody who donated. If you want to help the channel, grab one of those T-shirts. It's in the chat. It'll be in the show notes. And I'll see you next week. I'm looking forward to it. Film review on Wednesday sometime. Game plan on Friday. Y'all have a good week.